Hello everybody, hope you're enjoying the Euros this time around. Of course, England, Scotland, Wales have all qualified, and England and Scotland play each other. So to celebrate, we brought together three former players, one from each of the home nations, to discuss what it means to represent your country at a major tournament. Representing England, we've got Paul Ince, Scotland, Colin Calderwood, and Wales, Sam Vokes. Paul and Colin famously played each other at Euro 96, and Sam scored an epic goal in the quarterfinals against Belgium in 2016. We've got three distinct themes, and this time around they're going to talk about the pressure that you feel as you go into a big tournament.
Ince, can we talk about pressure management? I mean, it's this word that always seems to surround elite sport, but how does it show itself within a squad of players? Does everybody feel it in different ways? And who manages it? Do you self-manage? Is it the responsibility of the coach? Is it the responsibility of the group? I mean, how did you all deal with it?
I think it's, first and foremost, I think when you look around, as I mentioned previously, when you look around the change room and you see Stuart Pearce, Tony Adams, Dave Seaman, Shearer, Teddy Sheringham, people like that, people who've played in FA Cup finals, who've won titles, great players, you're kind of born to deal with that pressure. But then you've got someone like maybe Darren Anderton, or Jeremy Redknapp or Steve McManaman, who, deal with it in different ways. And I think pressure can come from so many ways. It can come from your manager, as in Terry Venables, and he never put any pressure on us. There was no like, we've got to win this game, we've got to do this. He was very softly spoken, Terry, so he kind of relieved a touch of pressure. But when it came to, in that change room, when it came to the manager saying his piece or having his say, and then he left the change room, it was then the likes of the characters to go round and just, have a little look at people, see how they're preparing. Because people prepare in different ways, and sometimes you can look at a player and think, oh, he looks a bit nervous. And then it's down to you to kind of see that as a person from experience. And I remember when I played in the Winners' Cup final for Manchester United against Barcelona in 1991, and I was so nervous. And Brian Robson just pulled me and said, listen, Paul, don't worry, any problems, I'm by your side. Don't worry about it, and that just gives you a little bit of, you've got someone, who's got your back. And that's what you do as a leader. That's what you do from experience and that type of stuff before. So I always kind of looked at players and, said, listen, okay, fine, we'll be great, this and X, Y, and Z. But we had so many leaders in the team and knew how to deal with that pressure. We were laughing and joking before the game, playing their tennis and, we were so relaxed, you wouldn't believe it, and I think that showed in the way we played.
I mean, what advice would you give to the current generation, particularly those that are in Gareth Southgate's squad who've not experienced a major tournament before, regarding dealing with that? And I guess it's a very different world from Euro 96, 25 years on as well.
It is. That's a good question, Clemmit, because I kind of feel nowadays, with social media, with so many fans having an opinion now on teams, players, individuals, managers, it's very hard to get away from that pressure. Euro 96, we had no newspapers, there wasn't social media, we couldn't hear all the comments. So, that pressure never built up on us. I mean, today's generation is completely different, as we've seen before. So, as a young, as a young kid, you just got to kind of relax and try and enjoy the moments. It's so hard to enjoy these things, because you get tense and, try not to. If it was me, I wouldn't go on social media until the tournament was finished. I know a lot of players have their phones and they go on social media to see what people are saying. If I was Southie, I would say, listen, no phones. Don't go on social media, because that puts pressure on yourself. And as young kids, you don't want to do that. But listen, you're playing for England. You're playing for England for a reason. And that's what you get to deal with pressure. I don't care how old you are, how young, you've got to deal with pressure. And the best players deal with pressure. So, but they've got to enjoy it. They've got to relax. So we always put pressure on our country. As a nation, we always do that. We always expect us to go and win a trophy because we haven't won it for so long. So they will have pressure, England, especially after 2018, losing the semi-finals to Croatia. You know, there's a lot more interest now to see how we're going to progress in a European tournament, but there's not actually one favourite. And Southie knows that. You know, Southie's got a young squad, so to speak. The likes of Foden and, you know, Grealish, people have never been at these tournaments. But then Phil Foden's playing in the Champions League final. You know, Phil Foden's played with the best players in the world. You know, he looks like he can deal with pressure. You know, and Southie will be the one. It's not necessarily the best players. It's the one who can deal with pressure. When you go out on that pitch, you have to perform. But I'm quite excited about it, Clem. I am. I think, you know, we've got a young team who can go forward. As I said, there's no guaranteed favourites. The Belgium would be strong, but we've got some exciting, you know, options going forward, and that can only bode well for us.
Was it a free hit for you all, or did you feel immense pressure that, having got there for the first time since 1958, you know, you needed to serve the Welsh people? Well, you obviously to the best of your ability, but did you feel pressure?
I think a bit of both. You put pressure on yourselves because you want to do well in the tournament. No one wants to turn up and leave at the group stage. Don't get me wrong; it's still been a great experience to be part of. But for us, going there, we wanted to achieve something. We totally believed we deserved to be there and stake our claim. Really, it was, like you say, I think the first tournament for 56 years. I think for Wales as a country, and it was. Building up to that first game against Slovakia, you could feel it. I think we were in the south of France, and the hotel. I always remember going down for a meeting, and the hotel was in a little complex, I suppose, of 4 or 5 hotels and a lot of bars around the place. And we went for a pre-match walk, and you couldn't walk through the streets for Wales fans. I think it was unbelievable. The sea of red everywhere, and don't know if they found out where we were staying or what, but they seemed to immerse themselves in it. And leaving for that first game against Slovakia was probably, like you say, the first pinch yourself moments. Think, wow, we have arrived at a major tournament here, and it was a great feeling.
And who helps to relieve that pressure? Is it the manager? Is it senior players? Do you help each other collectively?
Manager was very important. I remember the meeting. You kind of, before you leave a hotel, you always have a meeting, whether it's about the team or squad, and he never talked about the game once in that meeting. And I actually remember it quite vividly because I've gone into the meeting and there's a presentation that goes up on the wall, and suddenly my wife was on there talking, and I couldn't believe what was happening. So behind all of the players, backs, I suppose, the staff have gone and got a personal message from a family member each, all 23 players, and that kind of made it like. Hit home a little bit really, and took the pressure away from the excitement of the game to like why you're there and why you're doing it really. And it was great to see families, children and parents all commenting on that from different players of the squad.
I should imagine that's quite emotional to see, isn't it?
I think it was, yeah. To be honest with you, my video seemed to be the first one up. So to see my wife on the front of 23 lads in the squad getting ready to go to their biggest game of their careers at the time was it was a bit of a strange feeling, but it was amazing, and it was it was something that I think probably made it hit home, but also ground us a little bit to go and take on that first big game against Slovakia.
Yeah, you were always aware clearly that you were going to be facing some players that you knew extremely well in coming up against England. Yeah,
of course. We won at Slovakia in our first game, which was a massive achievement for ourselves, and going into the second game against England was a massive task. It was a massive game. It was the one everyone was talking about pre-tournament, similar to England-Scotland, I suppose, in this tournament coming up now. And it was a great occasion. Fans from both countries coming over and meeting. Unfortunately, it was in the smallest stadium in the tournament in the north of France, but I think it was a great occasion. And we found ourselves 1-0 up and at half-time, probably playing our worst football that we've played in recent times, I think, in that game. And we kind of said it at half-time. And unfortunately, we managed to concede in the last kick of the game. Suddenly, you've gone from winning your first game, top of the group, to fall into the bottom of the group and suddenly needing a massive win against Russia. And on a personal note for myself, I didn't get on in either of those games. So you're kind of thinking in the back of your mind, if things don't get right and I don't get a kick, I might have come to this tournament and not even got a kick for Wales. So it was a mix of emotions really, and very similar after that England game. The manager did the same as the Sweden game, and we didn't train for 2 days then. Kind of went and forgot about football because there was a lot of pressure on us at the time, and we went and chilled out, and I think he managed that time really well.
What advice would you give to the boys going into this tournament, and particularly those that weren't involved in 2016?
Yeah, I think especially for the ones that weren't involved, is to enjoy it, and that's an easy thing to throw away and an easy comment. But if I look back to it, I think taking in every moment while you're there is so important. It's the memories that will live you forever. But don't get me wrong, there is that added side of there's a pressure and there's a job to do at hand. So enjoy it, but do it in the right way, and well, yeah, get as far as possible, because it's going to be a tough ask, and I think it's a tough group the boys are facing coming up. But like I said, the results they've picked up in recent times shows they're more than capable of getting out of the group and progressing further.
You mentioned the training process. How did the pressure manifest itself?
If I'm honest, I don't think it did. Only until actually we kicked off against Holland, and then suddenly the game seemed a wee bit too big for myself. And I can remember we were getting overrun in the opening period against Holland, who are obviously a pretty good team. And there was a moment where Gary McAllister took the ball, and it was a fairly simple pass, but it was the confidence he exuded to take the ball against this flamboyant, exciting, extravagant Dutch team. And suddenly it just became another game of football. And that's probably the moment where I realised, listen, you have been nervous, you have been under pressure. You're not living in the moment. Get a grip of yourself, basically. And it took someone like, well, it was Gary McAllister on that occasion, but John Collins and Stuart McCall, what they did in midfield that day was probably the oxygen that I needed to get through the game.
That's really interesting. So it wasn't the mercurial players going around the dressing room and convincing you could do it before you went on the pitch. It was actually showing what they could do with their feet and their brains that inspired you another 10%, 15% to get in your groove?
Yeah, exactly that. Suddenly it was, I took a lot of confidence and probably resolve that, listen, don't let this pass you by, probably is a fairly honest way to put it to you, Mark. But it took that moment of 2 or 3 players doing what they normally do, being able to get hold of the ball and pass it simply, take it back, because in the first bit I would have given it away and I didn't really want it back. And that just shows you that, and that I probably had never experienced that before in any game.
Listen, it's the first tournament since you were playing for your country at the World Cup in 1998. What advice would you give to Scotland's current crop about dealing with a big tournament?
I think to get yourself into a position where you know that you have to have some sort of relaxation coping methods, you know, and whether can you do your normal things, which was either playing cards on the bus going to a game, which didn't happen. We just didn't. But try and sit back and absorb the bus journey, the fans on the journey, etc., etc. I would probably like to go back and experience that as much as the games, and find a way that you can go to sleep the night before, because that's quite difficult.
Seriously, you don't remember sleeping a wink then?
Well, it took a while to get off, you know. And normally I could put my head down and go to sleep, but you are conscious of what may happen in the games.
I mean, just how aware are you as players in a squad, in a bubble, of just what it means to your country, of the hopes and dreams of your countrymen resting on your shoulders?
Well, you're watching the newsreels and probably the information that gets portrayed in the papers, and some of it's quite funny because the opinion is completely it's not the same. So they stood outside the hotel saying the players are inside and they're getting ready, they'll be preparing, they're doing this X, Y, and Z, and in reality you're doing your normal stuff. You're lying in your bed, you're going down for a massage, you're eating your dinner, etc., etc. You're playing cards, you're having a cup of tea or a coffee, etc. But they're trying to hype up, bring excitement to the viewers, and in reality the lads are in there just relaxing as best they can, doing their preparation as normal as it would be for club matches, league matches, etc. The difference is on that night before and when you get on the bus, there is an adrenaline rush in your body that you don't get from normal games at that time.